Dear Dad, it's been 15 years since you left us. A lot has changed, but I think I'd be making you proud. A degree from SC State and USC Law. You would love my wife, Jill, and I represent our community in the State House. But now I'm doing something bigger, running for Senate to continue fighting for our community, creating opportunities and protecting the rights of those who need a voice. Because Dad, that's the world you taught me to believe in.
It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. Now here's your host, Geno Jones.
Hey, it's showtime, the Geno Jones Showtime. I come to you live, now listen up, Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. So if you're in New York City or Atlanta or Miami, 6:30. If you're in Chicago or Houston or New Orleans or Memphis or St. Louis or Milwaukee, Minneapolis, 5:30. If you're out on the West Coast, out in LA, the Bay Area, San Diego, maybe up in Seattle or Portland, Oregon, where my firstborn daughter and my son-in-law are, 3:30. Subscribe. Now listen up. I want you to assist. I have a new goal. 1,000 new subscribers in 60 days. I'm officially a YouTube partner. Bottom line is, the more subscribers, the bigger that YouTube bag supporting my media company, Geno Media. So I ask up front in the show to spread the word, share, tell everybody to subscribe, but share the link, copy and paste it, and text it to somebody, email it, tell them word of mouth. Tell them to go to YouTube and just type in, there you go. That's how you spell Geno with an E, and subscribe and share this and every episode. As they say, subscribe, share, screen grab, rip some of the video, send a video clip, make it go viral, or text it or email it to somebody, or post or tag them on their social media page. Subscribe, share, screen grab, video grab, like, and binge watch all my back episodes with all my great celebrity guests like Mr. Big, Ronald Isley, and Ernie Isley, and Lettucey, and Kenny Lattimore, and Howard Hewitt and Lenny Williams, and new artists like my man Roy Chip Anthony, who's not really new. He's been doing this thing for a minute. October London, the young brother that sounds just like Marvin Gaye, and so many great guests I've had on this show. And my usual Friday guest co-host, Miss Keela Carson. Friday is like our stand-up comedy. It's like our comedy special for about 45 minutes live here on the Geno Jones Show. Brought to you by CM Transportation, cmtransportationllc.net. If your business, or maybe you're about to start a new business, and you need a transportation company, or maybe you have a transportation company. If that company is not dependable, reliable, and on time, not CP time, CM Transportation is the company for you. cmtransportationllc.net online, or you can call them. Their headquarters is right here. Their headquarters are here in the Charleston, South Carolina metro area, but the company does business nationwide. 843 area code 606-2702. 843 area code 606-2702. Shout out to the CEO, Carissa Carter. Ask for Miss Carissa Carter. Tell her you were watching the Geno Jones Show, and your business needs a transportation company that you can depend on, that you can rely on, and that's on time. Or you are about to officially launch or open your business, and you need a transportation company. Dependable, reliable, and on time. All right, shout out to you, Carissa Carter. Thank you for being a sponsor and a huge supporter of the Geno Jones Show. Happy birthday to my Geminis. All right, Gemini, stand up, celebrating a birthday today. Damian Hall from Guy. You know, Teddy Riley on the beats, Aaron Hall, his brother, lead singer, and Damian Hall of Guy 56 today. Groove Me, Baby, and Teddy's Jam, and Teddy, you jam, and Piece of My Love, Dumb. Because, you know, there was a big debate when that song came out, like late 80s, early 90s, ballad on Guy's first album, piece of my love. And it's the question, did Aaron say, did they say, you can have a piece of my love, dumb bitch? That's the debate. I guess for some people it's not a debate anyway. So happy birthday, Damian Hall. Speaking of producers, we're talking about Teddy Riley. I can make an argument the greatest producing duo, the greatest producing team in the history of music. One of them is celebrating a birthday today, Gemini. He is 65 today. Jimmy Jam. As a matter of fact, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, they have been guests on the show. You can go back and binge watch that show. They were one of my first big guests on the show about a little over 3 years ago. I started the show in the beginning of October in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. So this October will make 4 years of the Geno Jones Show live. So happy birthday, Jimmy Jam Harris, from Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, to the original members of the group, The Time, featuring lead singer Morris E. Day. Woo-hoo! Happy birthday, Jimmy Jam. Got to get you brothers back on the show. And South Carolina native, he was a big star at Clemson University, a star wide receiver. He is now a star receiver in the NFL. My man DeAndre Hopkins, celebrating a birthday today. He's 32. Happy birthday, D-Hop. Do your thing, my brother. Do your thing. Stevie Wonder fans, I got some great news. Yes, I have learned through my sources that Stevie Wonder is finally about to release a brand new album. Now, it is expected to come out in October. It's only been nearly 30 years since Stevie released his last new studio album. Doesn't have a name yet, but I do know some of the guests that Stevie wants to do like collaborations on this album. I know for a fact that he wants CeCe Winans to do like a collabo or duet with him. I've learned that he is a big fan of Ari Lennox, and I know he's a big fan of Andra Day because I think he put her on. So don't be surprised if you see collaborations with folks like CeCe Winans and Andra Day and Ari Lennox on this new Stevie Wonder album that is coming out sometime in October. I'm a huge Stevie fan. And if you get to see Stevie in concert, man, we got to celebrate our legends and icons. Stevie is in his 70s now. Frankie Beverly and Mays, they just did their final tour, but I know Stevie loves to perform, so Stevie will probably be performing in the grave. He loves to perform, but let's make sure that we get out and see these iconic, legendary figures that we grew up listening to, or our parents played, and we listened to them through our parents. So, and Stevie Wonder is amazing. Now, take a nap before you go to his concert, because Stevie don't do no short show. You might be there 2.5, 3 hours. He's done it before. Trust me. He loves to perform in front of an audience, live audience, and he just loves music, and he loves what he does, and he is really a musical genius. Because you hear that name tossed around a lot, Stevie Wonder is still a musical genius. And I had the honor to work for him for a year. So shout out to KJLH Radio out in Los Angeles. Stevie Wonder has owned that radio station for going on probably about 40 years now. So shout out to Stevie Wonder, my man Andre Russell, and the entire staff. I think is Karen Slade still the GM out there, I heard. So shout out to the KJLH staff, and shout out to Stevie. Stevie, you gotta come on my show, Stevie. I gotta work on that. I gotta work on getting you on the show. You gotta come on, because that would be huge. That's the least you could do for a brother. I ain't seen you in about 33 years. Wow. Man, time flies. All right, listen, before I get out of here, I want to recap. I want to go back over something I was talking about yesterday. So you may or may not have heard the story. So there's a guy named Byron Donalds. I might have slipped up yesterday and said Byron Donaldson. So if I did, I'm correcting the record. Florida representative, Republican MAGA cult member, black dude, beard, straight. Did you see? If you saw the movie Django, and if you remember Samuel L. Jackson's character, Stephen, is us bossa, boss? Who's that N-word? Like, dude, you look in the mirror, you look more N-word than Jamie Foxx's character. So Byron Donalds is that kind of dude. So he was on, I don't know, somebody's show. He's in Philadelphia trying to get black people to vote MAGA and support their cult leader, Orange Hitler. And he says so, and I'm going to quote him accurately because he was pretty upset and pissed off. I didn't say that. I said this. So but he implied, and anybody, if you look at the video clip from Byron Donalds, what he said is definitely an implication. He's implying that Jim Crow wasn't so bad for black folks. The tone and inflection, but what he said, I'm going to quote him directly here, that during I quote, during Jim Crow, the black family was together, unquote. I'll say it again. So, Byron, if you're watching there, brother, what you said verbatim was, during Jim Crow, the black family was together. Well, not exactly, young man. The black family was together until the black family was ripped apart because the husband or son was lynched, burned, castrated, and hung from a tree, burning bodies. Sometimes they would burn the body and hang the body. Sometimes they wouldn't burn the body, but they would hang the person, the black person. As a matter of fact, Byron Donalds, you are familiar with the word picnic, right? You do know, well, maybe you don't. So I'm going to educate you. The origin of the term picnic is short for, it was an event called Pick an N-word. Pick a nig, E-R. And they shortened it to picnic. Let's go pick a. And it was a huge public event. And people came, they left, and they would do it on Sundays. And when they would leave their churches, and kids would leave the Sunday schools, and they would be dressed up in their Sunday best. And the little young girls and the women would have on their dresses, and the men would have on their suits, and the son would have on his suit, and they would sit down, and they'd have food and drink, and it was like a big event. Watching a black man being hung. This happened during Jim Crow. Women raped during Jim Crow. The murder of Emmett Till, of a 14-year-old black man. And that's just the story that we knew of. There were probably hundreds or thousands of young men, 14-year-olds, younger, older, like Emmett Till, who allegedly whistled at a white woman. And they mangled his body and then tied this heavy metal fan to his neck and threw his body in a river in Mississippi. During Jim Crow, you had thriving black communities like the Greenwood District in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or cities like Wilmington, North Carolina, Orangeburg, South Carolina. You had thriving neighborhoods in Chicago, of Rosewood, Florida, thriving black communities in black towns and cities, to where the African Americans, in spite of Jim Crow, were successful with hotels and all type of restaurants and movie theaters and every type of business you could imagine, and doctors and dentists and lawyers. And what did they do? The summer of 1919 is called the Red Summer of 1919, where you had all these race massacres in Chicago and Wilmington, North Carolina, and in Arkansas, and cities and towns all across America. And then a couple years later, you had the Tulsa Race Massacre. because the racist whites in Tulsa were jealous of the black people because they were so successful and prosperous. As a matter of fact, what happened during the Jim Crow era, that the Ku Klux Klan, they would target like the most successful black men to hang. You would see black men hung in suits and ties because they wanted to make an example and they wanted to send a message. If you become successful, that could be you hanging from a tree with your body charred and burned beyond recognition. That and so much more. Legalized segregation, where men went overseas to fight for freedoms for people. Today is D-Day. You had the Tuskegee Airmen, the best pilots during World War II, were these black pilots, legendary pilots, that were better than the white pilots that they had. Not my opinion, it's fact. Google it, do your homework. And you had these men that went to Normandy 80 years ago today, D-Day. Today is called D-Day. So where basically America really helped to liberate France, because Hitler, who was a dictator, who says he wants to be a dictator today? And Hitler had invaded Paris, bombed Paris in France, and it took the Allies, led by the American soldiers, our grandparents and great-grandparents, 80 years ago, to liberate Normandy, Omaha Beach. And we lost nearly 10,000 soldiers, 10,000 Americans, who Orange Hitler calls losers and suckers. These heroic men and women who gave their life to liberate people thousands of miles across the big ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and then would come back and wouldn't have the same freedoms in their home country that they fought for other people to have thousands of miles away. All of that happened during Jim Crow, and separate water fountains and separate restaurants, and you had to sit in the back of the bus, and if all the seats were filled and you were a black person and a white person got on the bus, that black people had to get up and give their seat to a white person. Until Rosa Parks, actually it was a young woman before Rosa Parks, and I can't think of her name, and I apologize to her ancestors, but she was a young teenager and she was pregnant, and they didn't feel that she didn't fit the profile that they wanted or that they needed to get the attention. And then came Rosa Parks, who was with the NAACP. An older, demure, looking like a school teacher or a librarian black woman who refused to give up her seat. All that was a part of Jim Crow, and all the institutional and systemic racism, redlining when it came to trying to get insurance for your home, insurance for a car, a loan for a house, all the open discrimination. Literally, Hitler himself sent an attorney, a Nazi lawyer, to the University of Arkansas in 1933 to have him study America's Jim Crow laws. And that Nazi lawyer came back to Germany, and the blueprint for Germany's Nuremberg laws, it was Germany's version of America's Jim Crow laws, because they used America's Jim Crow laws as the blueprint to create laws to discriminate against the Jews in Germany and Europe, because the discrimination and the racism was so effective. How did they, if you got a constitution that says all men are created equal, how can they have that in a constitution, but then they have a whole separate set of laws to discriminate against an entire race of people? Hitler was like, damn, We ain't figured that out yet. You need to go over to America, go to the to the University of Arkansas's law school and study, figure out how did they pull that out? Man, what did they write? We need to copy and paste that. And that's exactly what Hitler did. All that was a part of Jim Crow laws. And so much more. So many more things. So Brother Byron Donalds, U.S. Representative from Florida, when you say, well, during Jim Crow, the black family was together. They were together until they weren't, because so many members of those black families were murdered prematurely or they were raped. So what are you implying when you say during Jim Crow, the black family was together? They were together as second-class citizens and had no rights and could be murdered and raped without any consequences. The children were second-class, third-class citizens. They had no rights that white people had. And that was codified in law. So what are you really, really trying to say, Byron Donalds, when you say that during Jim Crow, the black family was together, but you left out all the atrocities and the horror, murder, and rape, destroying of black communities, literally bombing and burning down communities during the Jim Crow era, like Tulsa and Rosewood, Florida, Wilmington, North Carolina, and all the race massacres in 1921 in Chicago and Wilmington and St. Louis and all across America. All that was a part of Jim Crow. So conveniently, Mr. Byron Donalds, you left that part out. So what were you implying? During Jim Crow, the black family was together, and they were second-class citizens at best. They were treated lower than animals. They were treated lower than the pets that these racist white people, Nazi, Ku Klux Klan ideology mentality people had. Stop. Because what you're doing is dangerous, man. You're going to sell out your community? You're going to misinform your community for a check? And like I said yesterday, if you think that your status, your position, you kissing Donald Trump's ass, and you sucking up and kissing the ass of these white nationalists, and maybe because you're married to a white woman, you feel that you are adjacent to white power, do you think these white men really approve of you marrying a white woman? Do you know what they say about you behind your back, and some probably to your face? When these neo-Nazis and Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and Three Percenters and Boogaloo Boys, if they are empowered by Orange Hitler, if he wins election on November 5th and he turns those groups I just mentioned, Oath Keepers and Three Percenters and Proud Boys and Boogaloo Boys and KKK and all these Aryan Nation, all these white militia groups, turn them into America's version of the brown shirts that Hitler had, or the black shirts that Mussolini, another dictator at the beginning of the 20th century, had, who were like, they weren't officially in the military, but they were empowered to be basically thugs and criminals and to intimidate and beat and murder and destroy and steal. I talked about last night Byron Donalds, Kristallnacht. Google that. It's a German word. The definition of Kristallnacht, the American translation, is the night of broken glass. And on Kristallnacht, the Nazis in Germany, in Berlin and in Germany, took to the streets and went to all the Jewish businesses and homes, and they broke out the windows of all the Jewish businesses, and they trashed the Jewish businesses, and they went to the homes of Jewish citizens in Germany, and they burnt the homes down, and they beat, and in some cases killed the Jews who were living in Germany during Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. That's how it got that term. And if you don't think that that couldn't happen here, and if you think that same ilk and mentality that still exists here in America, if you don't think they would come for you because you've been kissing Orange Hitler's ass, or you sit and say anti-black things, because they always look for a black face to engage in anti-blackness. And then they'll say, then the MAGA cult say, see, we're not racist. Look, there's one of you all that says exactly what we had to say. Stop bullshitting people, because your bullshit is going to get people killed. And they'll come for you too, Byron Donalds. They'll come for you too, Tim Scott. Oh, and Clarence Thomas, don't think they won't come for you. Oh, they're only cool with you. They only pay for your lavish trips and boat cruises and pay for your mama's house, because they are using you to make sure that they maintain power. But the minute you decide to rise up, oh, they'll remind your ass. Oh yeah, they'll remind your ass that you are not white. No matter who you're married to, or who you kiss up to, or whose ass you kiss. So in closing, once again, I want to speak to my millennials and my Gen Zers like I did last night. I don't want you to get discouraged. I don't want you to feel hopeless. I don't want you to feel like, well, ain't neither one of them doing anything, President Biden, the Democrats or the Republicans. What you have to understand, and all the information that you see on social media, all the videos, and I don't care who the quote-unquote celebrity, I don't care if it's Sexy Red or 50 Cent, I don't care who it is. Even if it was my black ass, any black person that is encouraging you either not to vote or to vote for Orange Hitler, they are encouraging you to engage in your own genocide. And if you don't believe me, Google Project 2025. They have the plans in black and white. As a matter of fact, it's so bold with it, you can download the plans yourself. You can Google Project 2025. Make sure you got a lot of paper in the printer, because it's nearly 1,000 pages. And they'll tell you how they plan to send the military to cities like Chicago and Detroit and Atlanta and New York City and Newark and Houston and Memphis and St. Louis and Los Angeles to put down peaceful protesters, to shoot. They will send, forget the local police, the military, the National Guard, the Marines, the Army, soldiers. They will become the local police. And when you have peaceful protests, because local police are going to be empowered to shoot and kill as many black folks as possible. Because Orange Hitler said that he's going to make sure he passes a law that police won't have to worry about being charged and convicted with murder. Like the criminal that murdered my man George Floyd, Derek Chauvin. And these plans, I'm not making this up. You can Google Project 2025 for yourself. Project 2025. Read it. All right? My millennials, my Gen Zs understand that these old white nationalists, these white Christian nationalists that are bastardizing Christianity, their version, which is a really remixed version of Christianity, because the truth is, any form of Christianity that's being practiced in America is a remixed version of Christianity. The Christian Bible that our ancestors was given was an edited version. with only the chapters that basically said that you should obey your master and that slavery was good. They didn't get the full Bible. And please know the Bible is an interpretation by men. That's a whole another show, another conversation. But the reason that these white Christian nationalists are just, they've got this fervor and they ban abortions and they want to ban birth control and they want to get rid of the LGBT community and they're banning books because they don't want America's true history taught because they don't want their children to feel bad about themselves. No, they don't give a damn about the kids feeling bad. That's bullshit. They don't want their kids to know the truth because they want to continue to perpetrate and continue the hatred, the bigotry, the racism, the misogyny, the sexism, the homophobia, the fear and hatred and ignorance in all of its forms, because I'll say it like I said last night, hatred, racism, anti-blackness, anti-Semitism, anti-immigrant hate, anti-Muslim hate, homophobia, misogyny, sexism is big business, and it always has been. For centuries, big business. And a small handful of people continue to get very rich off of the hatred, ignorance, racism, bigotry, fear, misogyny, and sexism. And they don't want to lose power. But what they know is if my millennials and Gen Zers in America who are in their prime of lives, my Gen Zers from their early 20s or late teens to like mid-20s, late 20s, and my Gen Xers from their mid-late 20s up to 40s, up to 40, early 40s. There are more millennials and Gen Zers than any other population group in America. And you all are in your physical peak, the peak of your mental capacities. You're obtaining success. I know it's still a struggle for many, but if you realize that if you come together collectively and vote for a person and a party that wants you to not just maintain the freedoms that you have or the freedoms you lost, women, in 16 states, you've lost the right, you've lost ownership of your body. You don't have full control. The government has the ultimate say about your body. If you get raped, you're forced to have the child. If you try to terminate the child, terminate the pregnancy, or if you got a niece or a sister that's 10, she'll be forced to carry the child of a rapist. Or if not, to have an abortion, she would have to tell the police who raped her. She would have to, a 10 or 12-year-old would have to tell the police that her dad or stepdad or uncle raped her. What's the chance of that happening? So they realize these people in power, the small handful of people that wants to continue making big money and continue the big business of hatred, racism, bigotry, fear, ignorance, misogyny, and sexism. They realize if you millennials and Gen Zs say, hey, hold on, wait a minute. It's more of us than it is any other group in our population. There are more millennials and Gen Zers than Gen Xers or baby boomers or the greatest generation, which are those who are like around 80 right now, those who, the few survivors that fought in World War II 80 years ago today, who were on Utah Beach and in Normandy to not just, to save the world, not just America, to save Europe and the world. If you all come together and vote for your freedom and understand you have a binary choice, binary, the Latin word for two, binary. President Joe Biden, Orange Hitler, or some call him 34, or 34 and counting, down on jackass Trump. President Biden is representing freedom, protecting democracy, resisting against being a dictator. On the other hand, you got a dude that's told you he wants to be dictator for a day. The day was bullshit. He wants to be what he was really telling you. He wants to be a dictator every day. And they've already basically put together a plan, and they've come up with their new Jim Crow 2.0 plan, legal plan. Really, Project 2025, you could call it Jim Crow 2.0, because that's exactly what they plan to do. And it's in writing, to take away all your rights, voting rights, civil rights, women's rights. No say over what your reproductive, no more reproductive freedom for women. Women would be jailed. The doctors would be put in jail, charged with murder. If you drove a woman to a clinic or out of state in some states, they would charge, and she gets an abortion, they would charge the woman, they would charge you as being like an accessory to murder. And these plans are already in writing. So understand, my millennials and Gen Zs, you got the power. And they know you got the power, and they are afraid that you may wake up and realize how much power you have as I come back on camera. And nothing and nobody can, they're not going to shut me up. I'm going to continue to speak to my millennial young brothers and sisters of all ethnic groups, because your generations are the most tolerant and intelligent, smartest group that we've had in America's history. And people fear that. But I celebrate it, and I will continue to empower you and to do like the older brothers and sisters in my neighborhood when I was a child. You know, if they saw something in you, you know, they wanted to give you some wisdom. They had a term, they say, yo, young buck, yo, young blood, young brother, let me put you up on game. Yeah, let me put you up on game. That meant they wanted to educate you. You've got the power. You got the power to change the world, like the 20-something-year-olds and the 18, the Gen Zers in the 1940s, 80 years ago, in 1944, it was that generation of Gen Zers today that literally saved the world. Teenagers, late teens, early 20s. So the late teens, early 20s, mid-20s, late 20s, and early and mid-30s, you got the power to save the world again. And it's really going to be up to you all. And you can start by saving this democracy is saving your freedom and saving you and your family members and your children and maybe your yet unborn children from a life under a dictator. How did that work out for Germany? How did that work out? How's that working out for Russia? There's no example of a dictatorship that benefited a country. Dictators and that form of government, autocrats, autocracies, never ends well for the people or for the dictator. So you can spare, you can save America and save the world from that. Just make sure you vote and take 100 people with you if you can. Take as many as you can. I say minimum take 25. Take all your fraternity and sorority brothers and sisters. Take all your cousins, all your kinfolk, everybody you know that you play ball with, that you travel with, that you socialize with, that you know. You've got the power, millennials and Gen Z. Don't give it away. And all the people that's telling you, oh, your vote won't matter and it don't count, they're telling you that because they already have a plan to where if you don't vote, the people who will make sure you never vote again, they're going to vote in large numbers. They want to take your power. Never give your power away. Never give your power away. You've got it. And nobody can stop you but you. Nobody can stop you from stepping into your power and making sure that your freedoms and the freedoms of your family and children and cousins and nieces and nephews will not be taken away. Because there are plans to take America and to take black people and people of color and women and the LGBT community back 200 plus years, from 2024 to 1824. They have a plan to write laws that sound like something from 1824. And they got it in print. It's in black and white. Google and download Project 2025. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life. As always, God bless each and every one of you. You and especially you, God, most of all. Thank you for letting me do the Geno Jones Show live Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 in Chicago, 3:30 p.m. on the West Coast. The Geno Jones Show is brought to you by CM Transportation. If your transportation company, if your business has a transportation company, or you are launching a new business and you need a transportation company that is dependable, reliable, and on time, not on CP time. CM like Mary, CM Transportation, LLC.net, CM Transportation, LLC.net. Headquartered here in the Charleston, South Carolina Metro, but the company does business nationwide. 843 area code 606-2702, 843 area code 606-2702. Shout out to the CEO of CM Transportation, Ms. Carissa Carter. Thank you for being a big sponsor and supporter of the Geno Jones Show. I'm asking each and every one of you that's watching me either live or watching the recorded version, watching me on demand or whenever you get time, to please help to continue to grow my media company. I have a goal, 1,000 new subscribers in 60 days. I already qualify to be what they call a YouTube partner. That means I can start getting some money, a check from YouTube, get that YouTube bag. But I need your help. Spread the word. So tell everybody to share the link to this show. Copy and paste the link. You can share it, tag it, text it, email it. Send them a copy of the show. Tag this episode. Screen grab it. Rip some of the video. Send it to Mr. Byron Donalds, U.S. Representative from the state of Florida. We can educate his ass. Send him that copy. And while you're at it, send it to him and Senator Tim Scott and Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Yeah, make sure you send it. And send it to any other of these black MAGA cults. Send Sexy Red and the rest of these clowns. It's talking about supporting this MAGA cult that wants their demise and destruction, and the demise and destruction of their families. For a check, you would sell out your mama, you would sell out yourself. These people would have no love for you. All right, everybody, let me get out of here. Tomorrow, Friday, TGIF. Thank God it's going to be Friday, my week in review show. I expect to have my guest, Ms. Keela Carson. I may have, we got elections next Tuesday here in South Carolina, primaries, and I might have another contestant. Shout out to State Senator Dion Tedder. He was my guest. He's going to be my guest Monday, special Get Out the Vote edition, election day, primary election day here in South Carolina. It's next Tuesday, June 11th. So, but I may have one of his opponents as my guest tomorrow. We'll find out after the show. Shout out to everybody. Thank you for watching, everybody. Thank you, Mother, for being my #1 fan. And I can't find the words to tell you how much I love you. You know that. And thank you for always keeping the conversation going in my chat room. My mom is special. Feel free to join the conversation in my chat room when I'm on camera live. If you got a question or comment, you can talk to my mom, because my mom she's there every day, or as Nellie would say, every day. She's got the conversation going in the Geno Jones Show, the live chat room when I'm on camera live. happy birthday to Shalonda, former Dr. Ted Dunn, Roper Hospital Clinic in Mount Pleasant, suburb of Charleston, South Carolina. Happy birthday, Shalonda. Dr. Dunn retired, so she's still working in his office, but they always took good care of me. So if y'all know Shalonda here in Charleston, the Charleston, South Carolina Metro, all the folks at Roper, tell her Geno gave her a birthday shout out. Happy birthday, Shalonda. All right, everybody. I love you. We'll see you live Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Holla.
Dear Dad, it's been 15 years since you left us. A lot has changed, but I think I'd be making you proud. A degree from SC State and USC Law. You would love my wife, Jill, and I represent our community in the State House. But now I'm doing something bigger, running for Senate to continue fighting for our community, creating opportunities and protecting the rights of those who need a voice. Because Dad, that's the world you taught me to believe in.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of The Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.